So wives, if you want to revolutionize your marriage, affirm him. Get in the habit of affirming him respectfully. Don't think, I know it's tempting, but don't think you can criticize him into being a better man, tearing him down until he takes the right shape. It's not going to work. And if that's been your strategy, I promise you it is not working for you. And actually, if he hasn't already begun tuning you out, he soon will, so that your words count less and less in his life, so that they hurt less and less in his life. Now instead, don't criticize him. Instead, if you want to change your man into a better man, if you want to build him into a better man, you affirm him into it. He'll grow into those shoes. You find that shred of good that's underneath all of his flaws. I know they're there. Ignore them. Find the good underneath all that, and you affirm the stink out of it. Like, go after that. Tell him what he's doing well, and he'll grow into it. I know, it is hard to affirm things that are not perfect. But when you do, you move them toward perfection. You build him with your words of affirmation. Now, in a Roman letter like this, Paul is expected, after telling the wives that their role is to submit, Paul is expected to turn to the husbands and say, okay, husbands, their job is to submit. Your job is to make sure they submit. Make sure they obey you in everything you say. Paul doesn't do that. In the face of his culture, in the face of expectations, subverting the cultural norms, he actually lets the fellas have it. In Paul's mind, he's giving the men here, the husbands here, the harder task. He says, for husbands, this means love your wives, just as Christ loved the church. And how was it that Jesus loved the church? He gave up his life for her, to make her holy and clean, washed by the cleansing of God's word. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. For a man who loves his wife actually shows love for himself. No one hates his own body, but feeds and cares for it, just as Christ cares for the church. And we are members of his body. You hear what he's saying here? The implications? Talk a lot about bodies. What he's saying is, fellas, just as Jesus self-sacrificially loved his body, the church community, husbands, love your wives as surely and consistently and completely as you love your own body. You love her like you love yourself, defending her, protecting her, serving her interests, treating her with the same dignity and respect and honor you wish to receive from others. Husbands, do not use the wives submit line to get your way. That line is not for you. No, you love your wife by giving up what you want, your way, for her sake, for her life. Husbands, if you want to revolutionize your marriage, it's so painfully simple. It feels like I'm insulting your intelligence, but you know what? I'm going to go for it because it's so underutilized that I got to tell you, it's simple. But if you want to change your marriage, make it a habit to thank her, appreciate her. I know that sounds simple, but I don't mean like think thoughts of affirmation and appreciation. I mean like actually verbalize them, like say them out loud, you know? Like identify what you're grateful for. Pay attention to the little things she does, and of course the big things, and tell her thank you. Make it a habit, a rhythm of thanking her. And you're like, well, should I thank her for stuff that we've already agreed that she's going to do? Like, you know, if it's her turn to do the dishes, you want me to thank her for that? Yes, that is what I'm saying. Yes, of course, thank her for stuff that you've already agreed. Like, yeah. And you know what it's like to feel underappreciated for stuff you're expected to do? Appreciate her. Love her in the way you wish to be loved.